I got every retro achievement in Bubsy 3D for the PlayStation 1. Let's talk about it. Over on Twitch, I introduced a redemption for channel points, which you can earn by just watching the stream. You can follow me under the username PS_Stu, where you can make me play a game that has retro achievements and I will try to master it. My friend Ginger Tech, who also streams under the username Ginger_Tech_, got the first redeem by requesting I play the masterpiece, known as Bubsy 3D. You see, years earlier I did the exact same thing to him, so this was his way of repaying me for my kindness. What a gentleman. Go give him a follow on Twitch. Now, I've obviously played Bubsy 3D before. I've even beaten it before, but I've never 100%ed the game, so the stage was set for me to finally cross that off my bucket list. Not only will I 100% the game, but I will have to become an expert on Bubsy 3D with the hardest achievements in the set. Each level must be beaten without taking a single hit. So for this episode, I won't be going through my specific journey through the achievements. I earned a lot of these out of order, so it would be a complete mess to do my usual method for these videos. Instead, I will split the set into categories and talk about them as I should have earned them, while giving my thoughts and advice on getting those achievements. I'm also writing this a month after earning the mastery. I had originally cancelled the idea of doing a video on getting this mastery, but I wanted to experiment with a shorter type of video while some of my other videos are getting longer to make. So let's earn every retro achievement in Bubsy 3D, one of the worst games ever made, and a game I like in spite of that fact. Or maybe I love it because it's terrible. Who knows? Let's get started, because after all,
What could possibly go wrong?
Bubsy 3D starts with this long, awkward cutscene where the leaders of the Woolies are talking about Bubsy, who they have finally captured and taken to their home planet of Rayon. The Woolies have been thwarted by Bubsy before in their efforts to take over Earth in order to take the world's supply of wool. I don't know either. However, the rocket containing Bubsy crash landed on their planet and now there is a Bobcat on the loose. So our goal is to go through every level, collecting atoms and rocket pieces to help Bubsy build a rocket ship and get off Rayon and back to Earth. And that's all the story we really get until the end of the game. So now it's time to plop ourselves into the first level and... yeah. This is what the whole game looks like. Buckle up your eyes, folks. They're being taken for a ride. Bubsy 3D is the 3D platformer released in 1996, which means it was being developed at the same time as Super Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot. In a different world, this game also helps influence the direction of the entire genre going forward, but alas for Bubsy 3D, it did not get the love those two games received for some reason. It may still have been influential by showing what not to do in a 3D platformer. Despite levels looking like my MS Paint creations from when I was 6 years old, we have to traverse these places trying to find the exit while dealing with enemies, obstacles, and worst of all, the controls. Enemies can be defeated by either stomping on their heads or grabbing an atom by running into them while holding square, aiming at the enemy, then letting go. If you hold it too long though, it will explode in your face. If it doesn't hit anything, it will bounce right back at you and try to explode in your face. The platforming doesn't feel too much better. You have a jump for short distances, but to travel far there's also a glide button. However, you cannot jump into a glide either, so once you've made your move, you're pretty much committed. If you take a slight step off a high platform, or one that is over water, Bubsy will die. Like even if a toenail goes over the edge, Bubsy does the Wile E. Coyote fall and we lose a life. However, like many games with unorthodox controls, you do get used to it. Bubsy has tank controls, and once you get a feeling of it, it actually stops feeling too bad. It never feels good, but it stops feeling terrible. By the end of my journey through the achievements, I was actually able to move pretty well. My deaths usually came from enemies or trying to do dumb jumps to skip half a level. More on that later. For the first category of achievements, the goal is just to finish the level. Now, you do not need the rocket parts to finish the level, all that does is affect which ending you get. Concentrating on just getting through the levels isn't too hard, but sometimes can be a nightmare to figure out where you need to go. This is in spite of all the handy arrows littered around everywhere. Aren't these game designers wonderful?
Aren't these game designers wonderful?
Instead, there are times when I'm literally going around in circles because I have absolutely no idea if I'm going the right way or not. A lot of the level ends up blurring together due to the level design philosophy of, who cares? That was clearly a display here. You might think these are complaints, and they are, but they're also a part of what makes Bubsy 3D the game that it is. The game looks like if an acid trip was sick all over the place. No game should ever look like Bubsy 3D, and as a result, it ends up retaining a certain uniqueness compared to its peers. There are 18 levels in the game, which includes 2 levels that are just a boss fight. The first fight is against the professor, who is floating above the level on his own platform, shooting fire at you on the ground. You can use the impact of the blast to updraft and glide upwards towards him to bonk him on the head a few times. The camera will not be your friend here. As soon as you jump or glide, the camera moves to the top of Bubsy's head, making it hard to see where you are going, especially if the professor moves from where he was, from when you start your jump. The woolly mammoth fight is probably easier. You mostly just have to avoid him and then attack him when he flips over. There is a third boss fight, but that is part of the final level, where we have to defeat the woolly queens Polly and Esther. They are a pain in the ass, constantly teleporting and shooting at you. You have to activate the switch on the platform they are on to unlock the atoms that have been locked away. Then you can grab the atom and try and shoot Polly or Esther before they teleport away. This can be chaotic, but if you manage to take out one of them, it becomes much easier to deal with the other, though they will start to teleport away quicker once they're on their own. Once we beat them though, that marks the final level we had to beat to complete the first section of this achievement hunt. Next up, we need to collect the rocket parts. As mentioned, there are 2 of these in each level, and some of them are easy to find, though they are often on alternative paths to the one that leads to the end of the level. Some of them will just be waiting for you to collect them, but some of them will require a little bit of work to obtain. If you see a stack of colour statues like this, make a note of the order of the colours, because that will be the order you have to press the colour switches to unlock something, occasionally including a rocket part. Other times you may need to play the world's slowest and most cumbersome game of Simon, and sometimes you just have to shoot a wall down. Once you've collected 2 rockets, you then have to finish the level to make them count. If you know the game well, or are following a guide, you can definitely get the rockets in the first playthrough of each level to save some time. I did not do this because trying to find the rockets on my own would prove to be a long and arduous task. I did get pretty far before I had to resort to a video guide. Once you've collected every rocket part except the second one in the final level, you can safely beat the boss, the reward of which will be the final rocket part, to see the true ending of the game. Was it worth it? Well, we see that Bubsy built the rocket, but due to an issue sends himself to the very far past instead, which allows the Woolies a free pass to take over Earth and steal all of our wool. Great. The true ending of the game is the one that dooms us all. So now we've beaten every level and got every rocket part. What's next? Well, unfortunately, the hard part is next. By this point, I was decent enough at the game, but I still had an issue with direction. This would prove to be one of my downfalls, as now I had to beat each level without being hit at all. A lot of the early levels are a breeze to do this with, as I could just ignore every enemy and zoom past them on my way to the goal. As we went through every level though, it became more about trying to find my way while avoiding enemy shots, while also trying to remember where I had to go. Usually once I knew where to go, I wasn't too bad at the levels, but the last 4 or 5 levels really tested my skill, my knowledge, and most of all, my patience. The difficulty in avoiding any damage here starts to really ramp up. After spending literally hours of the stream trying to beat one level, Woollyville Horror, I look up a speedrun to try and get tips. That's when I saw it. The move. The move that will make my life easier for the rest of the set. The move to end all moves in Bubsy 3D. The wall skip. If you angle yourself just right on a wall, literally being fully flush on the side of it, then jump towards it, there's a way to land on the wall and immediately jump again. You can chain this together and jump over any wall in the game, but even just being able to jump over short walls makes life 100 times easier. From here, I was able to relatively quickly beat a few more of the hard stages, with the 2 exceptions being Bright Light Big Woolies and Escape from Wool A. In Bright Lights, there were no walls to really do this with, but there is another skip I learned from the speedruns that I was able to pull off to skip a significant portion of the level. Near the beginning there's a section where you can jump over some water, then jump off a mountain to skip a lot of the level. This means the level took me 1 minute and 25 seconds, which as of writing is the 8th best time on the RetroAchievement leaderboard for that level. Escape from Wool A was the last level I needed to do Hitless, and it became an anchor, stopping me from reaching paradise. These bird enemies are the main cause, especially this one where you have to avoid its sonic attack. You have to jump up to the platform it's on, and because of the camera, it becomes hard to realise that the attack is coming. There are a couple of escapes you can do here, but you have to get past this asshole to get there. I tried to ignore them and get ready to make my jump to the car that literally takes me to the end of the level. With that in the bag, I had almost done every level without being hit, The only one I had to do was beat the professor one more time. This one was a bit of a struggle. I kept missing my jumps and ending up in the fire, but the more I fail, the more I learn, and eventually, I kick his butt one last time.
Strength and beauty, the perfect combo.
Before the grand finale, there are a bunch of miscellaneous achievements that will likely be hit during a regular playthrough, including grabbing the power-ups in the level and grabbing 150 atoms in a single level. There is an achievement for collecting 9 lives, which is easy enough to do if you're good at the game. You get lives by collecting 100 atoms, and extra lives are littered around the level if you do enough exploring. I was not good at the game, and it was not until I was collecting rocket parts that I got the 9 lives achievement. The grand finale of the set requires you to collect every single item, including rocket parts, so you have to do this on a fresh save without being hit once on the first level. The level is easy, but there are a few hidden paths and breakable walls. There's also this section where it can be easy to miss a woolly shooting a shot at you, meaning we have to reset if we get hit. It took me a few attempts, however, I got there in the end, and I can finally say that I have mastered Bubsy 3D Furbidden Planet. You don't get the achievement? Okay, we don't even have to finish the level. We are done with Bubsy 3D. Let's end the level just for old time's sake. So let's talk about the set first. It's good. It does a great job at testing your skills at Bubsy 3D, and it's really just some of the latter levels where doing a Hitless becomes a Herculean effort. But overall, I have no real complaints about it. I can safely say that I am a better Bubsy 3D player now than I was when I started the set. I'd almost recommend giving it a go, and then I remember I'm talking about Bubsy 3D here. So let's address the elephant in the room. It's a mammoth. So let's instead address the Bobcat in the room. Bubsy 3D is a terrible video game by a studio that would go on to do really good stuff following on from this, including the Siphon Filter series, and most recently, Days Gone. So the controls are janky, the level design exists, technically, I guess, and the music. Oh, the music! After hearing the music for hours on end, it will drive you crazy. Oh my god, this soundtrack is insane, and not in a good way. Have a listen. And yet, I don't hate this game. In fact, I think I have a weird respect for it. In my life, I've played many bad games, but the best bad games are ones that try to be good games. Bubsy 3D tried to be a little different, and it succeeded in that, but not in the way that they would have wanted. The transition into 3D platforming was done better by the time Bubsy 3D came out, with Crash Bandicoot keeping it simple and polished, and Super Mario 64 showing off the benefits of analog controls, explorative level design, and damn good controls. Bubsy 3D did not do anything like that. In fact, it did a lot of the opposite things that made those games great. So does it deserve its reputation as one of the worst games ever made? Yes. And also no? So yes, it's one of the worst games ever made because it is a bizarre fever dream masquerading as a video game. But also no, because well, it's interesting. There is effort here, no matter how misguided. The game is awful, but damn it, at least it tried. I have played enough boring ass PS1 games that technically were better, but had a lot less effort put into it. Which unlike Bubsy 3D, it has no heart, it has no soul, and worst of all, they're boring. Any day of the week, I would rather play an interesting 2 out of 10 video game than a 5 out of 10 warfest. I genuinely do not think Bubsy 3D is the worst platformer on the PS1, but I haven't played them all yet, so one day I'll get back to ranking every PS1 game that I can play. But I really think that the reason Bubsy 3D gets memed on is because there's enough there to meme on it. There's enough there to make it worth exploring and discovering how bad it is for yourself. So many video games have died into obscurity because they had nothing to offer in the long run, but Bubsy 3D lives forever because it tried and failed magnificently. And I will respect a game that tried and failed more than a game that played it safe and was boring. In conclusion, don't come to me expecting a Bubsy 3D hater, okay? I'm a bona fide Bubsy 2D hater. I have disliked literally every Bubsy game I've played except 3D, but I will never hate Bubsy 3D. After going through hell trying to get every retro achievement for the game, I have an odd fondness for the game now, which will last a lifetime. So here's to you, Bubsy 3D, one of the best, worst games of all time. But I will never fucking play this game again.